So I've been thinking recently about making Chinook profiles that are videos instead of written profiles like a resume. Um, I think it gives a person a chance to see someone's energy, someone's soul, and hear their voice, which is like so much of who they are. How they speak, the speed at which they speak, the words they use, how they put the words together. Um, and what's interesting is that recently I was seeing someone and decided after 4 or 5 phone calls. I mean, we weren't seeing each other in person because of the current national COVID situation. Um, but we spoke on the phone for many hours, and after a while, I realized it just wasn't wasn't. I don't know how to describe it. It wasn't a match. Um, but I realized something during that process is that we may be compatible on paper, age, location, education, hashkafa, family backgrounds. Um, but I think what's probably the single most important thing we need to look for and that we don't often realize or we don't put on paper or even ask about is how emotional or how deep is someone's emotions. Meaning, if I see a horror movie, I'll be crying my eyes out. Like my face will be drenched, like someone threw water on my face. I don't enjoy seeing people suffer. It's not my temperament, it's not my personality, it's not me. Um, and then there are people who can watch Game of Thrones and it doesn't bother them, which is a lot of people. I know I'm not normal. And I mean that in a good way, meaning I'm unique. Hashem made me that way. It's a good thing. So it's funny when I say I'm not normal, people think that means that there's something wrong with me. And I'm like, no, 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 that just means I'm really unique, which I think is a blessing. Um, so someone's emotions, how deeply do they feel emotions? Their own, other people's, just in general. Um, it's funny. There's a rabbi I used to live near, and I would attend his classes from time to time. Usually just because I really liked his wife, and he was really close by, and I could learn a little Torah. But his personality was always like really jarring to me. Um, okay, that's overstating it. Not so jarring, but it was interesting. It was super different than my personality. So he would teach a Parsha class or maybe about a holiday or something. And then he would often ask people in the class, like, if they had any thoughts about it or they ever went through a situation like this or ever faced something difficult in their life and so on. And so, different people would be called on, different students would answer. And every now and then someone would share something kind of deep or personal, like when I got divorced, not me, but someone else. I haven't been married yet. But someone would say something like, after my divorce, I realized how much I learned and how it really was a blessing, et cetera, et cetera. And, they're sharing something really personal. And then he would say, okay, great, next. He just moved right on, like, whoa, right past. And that's so not me. So how do people receive people's emotions, right? Like, so how deeply do you feel emotions? Again, yours or other people's, just in general. So I feel like that's probably one of the biggest things that we need to talk about in Shidduchim that we don't talk about. And the other thing I realized that I thought was so powerful, and it happens often, but this most recent person I was dating, it was a great reminder, is that the things that we see in someone else that we criticize are exactly the things we need to work on. I mean, many years ago, I remember dating someone who I didn't feel like they were very generous. And then I realized, like, oh, I'm not generous. And then years later, I dated someone where I felt like they were really judgmental and critical of everyone. And I'm like, oh, I do that. And so when I worked through those things, they didn't appear anymore in the men I was being introduced to or the men I was dating. And then most recently, the realization I had was that this person was focused so much on work. He had a great job. And because he worked in an ER, he was allowed to work on Shabbos pikuach nefesh. At least I think. I never actually got a complete answer on that because it's not like he's called in just for the emergency. He would kind of just, whatever. I don't want to get into Lashon Hara. He, from his Rav, got a heter to work on Shabbos twice a month. And he said that's a deal breaker for almost everyone he talks to. Like every firm girl he talks to, he says that twice a month he works on Shabbos. He's not senior enough in his role to be able to say, I'm not working on Shabbos, I think is his rationale, if I remember correctly. And yeah, and so that's his deal. So he said, and it's usually a deal breaker for like every single girl. And so I was thinking about this, like, that was one of the straws that broke the camel's back in my case. I was like, working on Shabbos, I've been in situations where people are working around the clock, 7 days straight, really intense deadlines, and I tell them I don't work on Shabbos, I leave early on Friday, no matter what's going on. So, I mean, I don't work in the medical field. I'm a lawyer, so it's obviously not life or death, but certainly certain people in the legal field put a lot of pressure on. It does sometimes feel like life or death. It can be really intense. So the point is that he said that it's been a problem for I think every girl he's spoken to who's from. And then he didn't ask me my reason for not wanting to continue yet. I just let him know earlier today. But if he does, that's definitely going to be one of the reasons. And I think eventually it might hit him like, oh, if this is a problem for all of these women, if I want to find a great lady who's, wants to build a home based on Torah, then maybe I should change this, So the phrase that came to mind, and forgive me for judging, was if only he cared as much about what Hashem thinks of him as he does about what the girls think of him that he's introduced to. And then I realized, like, oh, if only I cared as much about my relationship with Hashem as I do with how fervently I'm pursuing a shidduch, then maybe Hashem would take care of it. So again, it was just one of those realizations where like the thing you see in someone else, or the thing that you would put on your top 4 items, like what's bugging you about this person or why this shidduch doesn't seem right for you. Usually it's something we also do, and maybe not in the same way. Like I'm not working on Shabbos, I'm not in an ER, I'm not getting questionable heter from rabbis, or that I know of. But am I putting my faith in the physical world and the process and the profiles and the shadchans and the physical effort, which we have to do? Or am I understanding the source of all blessing and putting my faith in Hashem and putting my effort in increasing my connection to Hashem, my relationship with Hashem, my trust in Hashem, and really knowing that, like, from the infinite oneness of all life, my Bashar is there. And so if I connect to the infinite oneness in how is it? Why am I forgetting? In Od Milvado. If I connect to the infinite oneness, and my Bashar is connecting to the infinite oneness of Hashem, then Hashem will meet there. That phrase, saw you at Sinai. Well, I'll see you at Hashem.